Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another broadcast of the Lawrence Report. Tonight's broadcast, we will be discussing episode 8, which is the season finale of LawmenBassReeves. If I had to describe this final episode in one word, it would be epic. From the fighting to the acting in this final episode, it was everything that I wanted and so much more. We finally got a chance to see the showdown between BassReeves and Mr. Sundown himself, Esau. I love their interaction right there. We need that season 2. We need that season 2. Oh man, I'm just thinking about everything that happened in this series. It was just a great series to me. It was just a great overall show. But let's get into it, y'all. LawmenBassReeves episode 8. So we see Bass, Cheryl Lynn, and Billy Crow. They are basically on the hunt and looking for Mr. Sundown himself, aka Esau, right? But they interrogate an associate that is close to Esau, and they get some information about where his whereabouts could possibly be. But during the interrogation scene, after the interrogation scene is over, Bass says, well, I'm just going to let him walk to his next destination. Like, it's like 30 miles. He's not going to be able to make it basically on foot without the boots, right? And Cheryl Lynn does something even more crazier, which is something that Bass absolutely despises. Instead of letting this man walk and eventually die on his own, the person who they was trying to get information from that comes to them from Esau, Cheryl Lynn goes in and kills the person that they was interrogating, right? And BassReeves is like, listen, if you ever do that around me again, I will go to Judge Parker immediately and tell him what you are doing, because that is foul play. I didn't ask for that, but I just wanted to get the information and let him walk on his own, down on his own, right? And for I forgot what I was about to say, but for Cheryl Lynn, he's like, you gotta realize we're dancing with the devil here. But Bass is like, no, it's gotta be another way. This cannot be the only way, right? So they do end up getting the information that they need about where Esau actually lives. And as nightfall comes around, Bass, Billy Crow, and Cheryl, they're all talking. And Cheryl says some pretty racist things to Billy Crow. Like, it's pretty vile. I'm not even going to, reinstate what he was saying, but we all know that Cheryl Lynn is pretty prejudiced and somewhat semi-racist, right? So after they settle their differences or whatever and having to deal with Cheryl Lynn racism, they end up getting an address to where Esau lives, and they go there. But Esau's house is guarded by some men or whatever, and these men say, well, whenever you come onto this property, you can't have any guns. So Bass is there basically to collect this $50 debt that Cheryl Lynn owes him. But at the same time, Bass is also there to talk about, the situation, addressing Esau's Mr. Sundown, right? It's really his backup plan. So not only is Bass fighting a battle, back on the home front, his wife Jeannie's fighting a battle as well. She is met by Rachel, who is George Reeves' wife, right? We see in a flashback scene that SMA and Jeannie was pregnant at the time, and she was getting ready to deliver her baby. Of course, we all know during slavery times, whenever you had that baby, the first day, the next day, your slave master expects you to go back and get back to work, right? And, Jeannie shocked, like, why is Rachel on my property, right? And Jeannie Rachel comes with a message saying, they are changing the laws, and, if they end up doing that, I welcome you and your family back to my household as slaves, right? And one thing I did not know, that the actress that's playing Rachel is actually David Oyelowo's wife. I got a picture up here, as you can see, but I did not know that right there, this entire series. But anyway, Jeannie's not having that. She's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not going back to being your slave, right? And Jeannie ends up slapping her and telling her to get off my property. So back at Esau's mansion, right? He has a very nice mansion, but yeah, very nice mansion. You know, BassReeves walks in, and one of the first things that he sees is like this big old dinosaur head. And even while he's walking, you know, up to the house, he looks down, he sees footsteps where it looks like it might have been dinosaurs there, right? Because you know, in the previous episode, he talked about how his house, you know, was kind of monstrous and was things that people dreamed of, right? And it really was something that people dreamed of, especially back in the days. This stuff that you just wouldn't believe that you would see, right? Especially during those times. So Bass and Esau, you know, they have the interaction, you know, they have the conversation that they've been waiting for. He's like, I'm here to collect this debt. And you know what? Esau ends up giving him more than what the debt was actually owed. But then, you know, they both realize that they're both tired of seesawing around the subject about Mr. Sundown. And Bass approaches him with the words of Mr. Sundown. And, you know, it's crazy because, you know, Esau says these words right here. Bass, we've known each other for generations, right? Basically saying and chronicling that, you know, they are the same men. That's something that he has trying to say to Bass forever, that, hey, y'all are the same people, y'all the same man, right? But that's just not the case. And you know, Esau tells the story of how he ended up getting this house, how, you know, his family is doing this whole meat, things like a meat distribution thing or something like that, that him and his family came up off of. And, you know, for Bass, you know, he doesn't believe any of it, right? And, you know, he ends up cooking Bass a steak. Steak is not the best. Bass said it tastes like trash, to be honest with you. But while he's doing it, you know, he notices, well, Esau ends up opening up the window or something like that, and he sees the prisoner, Jackson Cole, right? Not to mention Esau, I forgot to mention this right here. Esau, you know, instead of killing black people or black men, what he's doing is he's actually making them work for free labor around his house, right? He's like, it's better to work for me than actually get hung by Judge Parker. So again, that is crazy in itself, because we thought that, you know, he was killing all these black men, but he's actually making them do labor around his house. So Esau opens up the window. He sees Jackson Cole there. And of course, you know, Bass is like, what in the world? Cole is, you know, brutally beaten pretty bad. It looks like he's probably hanging on by. So I absolutely love the dialogue between, you know, Mr. Sundown, aka Esau, and BassReeves. They both realized that Bass was basically there on another mission, right? And, you know, while they're there, you know, Esau takes Bass out there to where Jackson Cole is basically being hung, right? So again, he's hurt, badly damaged, whatever. And Esau comes up to him and says, do you believe in what I'm doing? And, you know, he makes him basically say, yes, sir. And he tells Bass to free Jackson Cole. So it's like, okay, cool. Wait, he's going to be free now? Okay, cool. So Bass ends up unshackling him, right? And while he's doing that, you know, these armed men, they are outside with Esau. And Esau tells Bass that, well, you know, now it's your turn, Bass, to get up on those chains right there. And Bass is looking at him like, oh, who, me? On chains? I'm a free man. So Bass tells him, you know, we've known each other for centuries. That's the key word here. They both have been saying it to each other. And Bass ends up taking off his hat, right? And when he takes off the hat is a cue for Cheryl Lynn and Billy Crow to shoot. And they do end up shooting. And then that's when this whole battle ends up going down. So Bass is never in the chains, of course, but he's on the pursuit of trying to find Esau. But while the battle is ensuing, Cheryl Lynn ends up getting caught in a bear trap, right? And in the bear trap, you know, he confesses to Billy Crow that, yeah, I am prejudiced, I am slightly racist, but I do know this right here. He says, you are going to be one fine U.S. Deputy Marshal. And he ends up giving his badge over to Billy Crow. Because again, Cheryl Lynn was caught in his bear trap. And eventually Cheryl Lynn actually ends up taking his own life. So as BassReeves is on the hunt for Esau, he does end up catching up with him. They basically are riding horses, and Bass ends up shooting him, right? And while he's being shot, you know, Esau says, "The legend is yours, Bass," and Bass ends up killing him, right? At the same time, Bass is telling Billy Crow to free all the men that have been working for, all the prisoners, the men of color that have been working for Esau. He says, free those men, to Billy Crow. And Bass goes back inside of Esau's mansion to take money. But at first, I know who he was taking the money for. He ends up taking a diamond as well. He ends up taking the money for Jackson Cole. He ends up telling Jackson Cole to get these prisoners up to Kansas. I heard it's pretty much free territory for people of color up there. He ends up giving a diamond to Billy Crow. He tells Billy Crow to go ahead and marry the young woman that we saw in the previous episode, right? So, I love that right there. That Jackson Cole and the people, the slaves, were finally free, and they was on their way to a whole new, better life, and back home, Bass tells his wife, "I'm home. All of me is home," right? Because in previous episodes, she felt like every time he goes on these hunts or whatever, a piece of him is being left out, right? And as towards the end, Bass is, he's having these flashbacks, everything that has happened over these last 8 episodes, right? Everything that's happened in his lifetime, from Judge Parker. Oh, I forgot to say, Billy Crow. Billy Crow. He's going to look out for Billy Crow to make sure that he becomes U.S. Marshal also. But anyway, Bass is having these flashbacks in his life about Judge Parker, Cheryl Lynn, the Native American family that he met in the first couple episodes, the war. All these flashbacks are happening, in his mind. And, at the end, we see his wife and the kids. They're outside in the backyard. They're playing. And for the first time in a long time, I'm getting a chance to see, BassReeves crack a smile. I feel like we haven't really seen Bass being able to crack a smile a whole lot, because everything that he has going. And I absolutely enjoy this series right here. It's the final battle between Esau, aka Mr. Sundown, BassReeves, lived up to the hype for me. Love the acting, like I said, on both sides of the aisle when it comes to Jeannie and Bass. I see how they both was fighting their separate battles, her on the home front and him, out there being the man that he's trying to be. But I just hope that we do get this season 2. I hope now, we've seen the cast be able to promote their stuff now, but I think now that the actor strike is really over, we will be able, to have these actors and actresses go on to all types of media circuits now. So shout out to the showrunner Taylor. Shout out to the creators, the producers, everybody that's behind the scenes in front of the camera. Dave Oyelowo, Lauren E. Banks. One heck of a series. One heck of a series. And if you're watching BassReeves, feel free to leave your comments below. I would love to know your favorite part of this series. And as always, thank you for tuning into The Lawrence Report.